Hello and welcome back to the Cyberlord YouTube channel. Today's review is the Doctor Who Enemy of the Daleks Big Finish audio review. That's right guys, this will be the first ever Big Finished audio review on the Cyberlord YouTube channel, so if you do enjoy, please like and subscribe. This review is of Doctor Who Enemy of the Daleks, starring Sylvester Mccoy as the 7th Doctor, with companions Sophie Aldred as Ace and Phillip as Hex. Also featuring Kate Ashfield and Aiji Kushuara, as well as some soldiers and some of the main parts in the story. So as you can tell, this is a Dalek story. In this review, I'm going to be giving you an overall opinion of it, a brief sort of idea of what this is about, and then I'll be recommending it to you, or at least telling you how much I would recommend it to you at the end as well. So stay tuned for that. So first of all, we'll get a little bit of a background on the story. Enemy of the Daleks, I've already told you who it's starring. We'll have a little look on the back of the cover, which we can do just here, and we can take a little look at this bit here. And if you'd like, you can pause the video as I go down. There's the cast there as well. Some extra people that I didn't mention were Nicholas Briggs, of course, as the Daleks, Jez Fielder as Systematic, which is like a robot medic type thing. And that's it. Now, if you have a look here, runtime is 120 minutes, which is bang on 2 hours. Big Finish Productions, 2009 is when this was made, and it is written by David Bishop and directed by Ken Bentley. So there's a little bit of a background on the story. So let's give a bit of an overview then. So the Doctor lands in a place that he calls Bliss. He thinks it's a beautiful place until he realises that there's been war going on. And he tells Ace and Hex to get back in the TARDIS and to stay back. Now this is because at this time, straight away in the story, the Doctor knew exactly what was going on, because he'd heard of this event in the future. Obviously, with him being a Time Lord and a time traveller, he'll have heard of all these different things that go on at different times, so he has already heard of this event, so he knew what was going to happen. He knew there was going to be destruction and death, which is why he gets Ace and Hex to go back to the TARDIS, but in the end, in typical companion fashion, they didn't, and they followed him. So the enemy of the Daleks is pretty much the humans, because repetitively throughout the story, the Daleks keep on saying that all humans are enemies of the Daleks, and they must be exterminated, of course. So, pretty much, there is now a main focus point of the story are sort of mutated piranha type creatures, which early on in the story appear to try and kill the Doctor, Ace and Hex, and they run and they run and they run until they come across sort of a hideout which has some members of soldiers. I can't remember what the group they were called was in, but they represent like an all-female army group, and I think it's Phoenix. I'm not entirely sure. It's weird because I've just listened to it about an hour ago, and I've already forgotten what they were called. The group that the room was called, but never mind. So initially they wouldn't let the Doctor and his companions in, but of course within about a second before the piranha type mutations get them, they somehow get in. They let them in, and the story goes from there. There's a professor in there who is a scientist, and he's working on mutating more of these creatures, but it goes wrong. Now the main Dalek in this is called the Black Dalek, and that's sort of the leader, and in the end he ends up getting killed. Then the Doctor attempts to, let's say, stop the Professor from continually creating and mutating these creatures who need to feed off metal, and the metal that all around them, of course, is the Daleks. So they choose the Daleks as their prey, fodder, as one of the Daleks actually refer to themselves as, that they don't want to be just fodder, and they'd rather it be exterminated. And that's weird coming from a Dalek, really. That's actually the Black Dalek that says that. So Ace and Hex get stuck, the Daleks take them prisoner, but then the Piranhas get the Daleks and kill the Daleks. And just as before the Piranhas would start killing Ace and Hex, the Doctor intervenes, and that sort of ends off the main attack in the story. Now this is by sort of part 4, and I think the story only really gets, let's say, a lot of action in the story by part 3, which is when the actual war begins. But it's not until near the end of part 3 when the Daleks actually realise that the Doctor was there, which is of course different to a sort of story that you would watch, whether it's a classic story or whether it's a new series story. For example, in Revelation of the Daleks, Davros knew that he was going to lure the Doctor there, so he already knew he'd be in there. In Remembrance, the Doctor came across the Daleks within the first episode, so it's a bit different, and I think when it has that uniqueness to the story, I think that is always a good fit. And I think that's what the Big Finish do really well, is they give that uniqueness to certain stories that make them different. Now, my thoughts on Phillip Oliver as Hex, I will have to say, he's a fantastic companion. I quite like the way that he goes around things. He's quite sarcastic, he's brave, and in certain parts of the story he's going to give his own life just to save some people that were already pretty much dead. Now, this is the first Big Finish story that I actually own. This is the second one I've listened to, but to be honest, I'm going to blank out the other one because it wasn't very good. But I think Hex is a companion with quite a bit of sarcasm, which is good because the Seventh Doctor can take sarcasm. Some Doctors couldn't. For example, the First Doctor, if he had Hex as his companion, he'd get probably angry and kick about the TARDIS in a certain way. But I think this is a brilliant story. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'd say 7 or 8. It's fantastic. When I was picking out the first story that I would listen to for the Big Finish, I decided to pick one with the Daleks in because, the Daleks are such a fantastic and well-known monster or villain or whatever you want to call them in Doctor Who. Because I mentioned in a few videos before, if you've heard of Doctor Who, you'll have heard of the Daleks. So I picked that. And the other reason why I picked the Seventh Doctor, or this story, for example, is because my favourite era of Doctor Who is the 80s, and my 3 most well-liked Doctors are 5, 6 and 7. And I wanted to try out a Mccoy story because he's the one that I didn't enjoy. Well, I can't say I didn't enjoy his on-screen stories as much, but his on-screen stories were a little bit... There wasn't too many of them to start with. But anyway, this is why I sort of chose to pick this story, especially as well because Ace is one of my favourite companions, and I never really heard... I heard of Hex, but I'd never heard him in a story, which is why I thought this would be a perfect story to use. So yeah, I really do recommend this story if you're picking out one yourself to start with. But I'm going to be buying quite a few more Big Finish stories. I'm looking at getting a few in the coming days, getting them off eBay. This one actually cost £5, so it's quite cheap actually. We'll have to see what we can do there, but once I listen to them I can review them and I can tell you which one I'd recommend out of them all. But for a first story, I think this is a brilliant choice. But that will wrap up today's video, guys. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe to the Cyberlord YouTube channel. Turn on notifications to be notified whenever I upload a new video on the channel. Got lots of things coming up, and hopefully Big Finish is going to be a big part of that. Also, if you'd like, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Cyberlord. Thank you so much for watching, and until then, I'll see you in the next one.